She loved taking early morning walks. The quiet of the town at that hour gave her a sense of calm she rarely felt during the busy day. Her dog, a small but lively creature, tugged gently at the leash, eager to explore every scent along the familiar path near the edge of town. The town itself was small, the kind where everyone knew each other, but the outskirts held secrets that few ventured to see. She liked that part of the walk, the feeling that she was alone in a quiet world even if only for a little while. This particular morning felt different. There was a stillness in the air that made her stomach tighten in a way she couldn't explain. Her dog, usually distracted by the smallest movement or sound, seemed unusually alert. He stopped abruptly near the cemetery fence, sniffing at something with keen interest. She followed his gaze and froze. There, just beyond the fence, she saw a freshly dug hole. At first, she thought it was part of routine work at the cemetery. After all, people came and went, and burials were a normal part of life. But as she looked closer, something didn't add up. There were no workers, no flowers, no signs that it was a planned grave. The soil around the hole was loose and disturbed in a way that seemed hurried, almost careless. She felt a chill run down her spine. She stepped closer, her curiosity stronger than her fear. The dog sniffed along the edge of the hole, growling softly, a warning she couldn't ignore. As she approached, she noticed small clues scattered around. A piece of cloth partially buried in the dirt, footprints that seemed to lead to and from the hole, and faint tire tracks in the mud nearby. Whoever had dug this hole had done it quickly, in secret, and then tried to leave no trace. Her heart started to race. She had stumbled onto something unusual, something that was not meant to be seen. For a moment, she considered turning around and leaving. After all, it wasn't her problem, and she had no idea what she might be walking into. But something inside her wouldn't let her. The feeling of responsibility, the nagging thought that someone could be in danger or that a crime had been committed, pushed her forward. She took out her phone and considered calling the police, but hesitated, unsure of how to explain what she had seen. Would they believe her? Would they take her seriously? She decided to observe quietly for a few moments longer. The town was still asleep, the morning mist hanging low over the cemetery, making the scene feel almost unreal. The grave hole looked deeper now than it had at first glance, and the soil seemed freshly turned. She noticed a faint smell of damp earth mixed with something else she couldn't identify. Her stomach churned, but her curiosity remained. She looked around, trying to see if anyone was nearby. There were no cars, no people, nothing to indicate that she was being watched. For a brief moment, she felt a strange sense of solitude, as if the world had narrowed down to just her dog, and the mysterious hole. She bent slightly, looking into it, careful not to get too close. The depth was hard to judge, but it was enough to make her uneasy. It was not just a shallow dig, it was deliberate, purposeful. The thought crossed her mind that it could be something harmless, maybe part of a project or a forgotten maintenance job. But then why leave it so hidden? Why choose this particular spot behind the old fence? The more she thought about it, the more she realized that this was not ordinary. She felt a sense of urgency, a need to act before it was too late. She took a step back and decided she could not keep this to herself. She dialed the local police station, her hands slightly trembling. When someone answered, she tried to explain as clearly as possible what she had seen. She described the location, the hole, the signs of recent digging, and the strange items around it. She spoke quickly, afraid that if she paused, she might talk herself out of doing the right thing. While waiting for the police to arrive, she kept her distance from the hole, keeping her dog close. Her mind raced with questions. What could have been buried there? Was someone in danger? Or was it evidence of something that had happened long ago? She couldn't know for sure, but the uncertainty made the morning feel heavier, almost oppressive. The peaceful walk she had begun with was now replaced with tension and fear. After what felt like an eternity but was only a few minutes, the sound of police sirens broke the silence. A few patrol cars arrived and officers jumped out, assessing the situation quickly and efficiently. They cordoned off the area, keeping curious onlookers at a safe distance. The woman explained everything again, showing them the tire tracks, the footprints, and the discarded cloth. The officers nodded, taking notes and photographs, and one of them asked her to wait nearby in case her observations became important later. She stepped back, watching as the scene unfolded. The morning sun had started to rise, casting long shadows across the cemetery, making the freshly dug hole look even more ominous. Other people from the town began to arrive, drawn by the commotion. Whispers spread quickly as neighbors speculated about what might have happened. Some thought it was a prank, others feared a crime, and a few recalled old stories of missing people and unsolved mysteries in the town. The atmosphere grew tense, a mix of fear, curiosity, and disbelief. She felt a mixture of emotions. There was fear, certainly, but also a sense of pride that she had acted. Her role in discovering the hole was clear, but she didn't want the attention. All she wanted was for the right people to handle whatever was buried there. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just changed. Something significant was happening and she was at the center of it, whether she liked it or not. As she watched the police work, she noticed the meticulous care they took. They didn't rush, treating the hole with the seriousness it deserved. She realized that this wasn't just about dirt in a hole, it was about uncovering the truth, about bringing to light something that had been hidden. Her curiosity, which after the police arrived, the area around the grave hole became more controlled but also more tense. Officers set up barriers to keep the growing crowd of curious neighbors at a safe distance. The woman stayed nearby, her dog sitting quietly at her feet, watching the scene with cautious interest. She noticed how everyone seemed drawn to the hole, some whispering their theories, others staring in silence. The mood was a mix of fear and fascination. She could feel the curiosity in the air, as if the entire town had been pulled toward the same mystery she had discovered. The police worked efficiently. They examined the tire tracks, the footprints, and the cloth she had noticed. Officers took photos, measured distances, and documented every detail. They talked quietly among themselves, their serious expressions revealing that this was more than just an odd occurrence. The woman realized that whatever had been dug up here might have a story that had been hidden for a long time. She felt both anxious and determined to stay and see what would happen. Forensic experts soon arrived, bringing with them equipment that seemed almost scientific in its precision. They wore gloves and masks, carefully collecting soil samples and examining the surrounding area. The woman stepped back, giving them room but staying close enough to observe. She couldn't help but feel a mixture of awe and nervousness. This was not a normal morning walk anymore. It had become a moment of real investigation, a search for truth hidden beneath the earth. The officers spoke to her again, asking more detailed questions about what she had seen when she first noticed the hole. She recounted everything: the exact location, the appearance of the soil, the discarded cloth, and the tire tracks. She also described how her dog had reacted, how he had sensed something was unusual. The officers listened carefully, jotting down notes, nodding at key points, and sometimes exchanging looks that made her realize they were taking her observations very seriously. As they worked, the townspeople continued to gather at a distance. Some were excited, whispering about old stories of missing people and secrets that had never been revealed. Others were worried, imagining that someone might be in danger or that a crime had been committed. The woman felt a strange sense of responsibility, knowing that her discovery had started this chain of events. She wanted to help, to make sure the right thing was done, but she also wanted to stay safe. The mix of fear and curiosity weighed heavily on her. Hours passed slowly. The morning sun climbed higher and the air grew warmer, but the tension remained. Forensic teams moved methodically, carefully sifting through the soil near the grave hole. They used brushes and small tools, their patience remarkable, treating every inch of earth as though it held a vital secret. She watched, fascinated, as they uncovered small fragments of material, pieces of cloth, broken items, and other objects that hinted at a story waiting to be told. Each discovery added to the mystery, making the woman more anxious and intrigued at the same time. The police officer in charge approached her and explained that they were following strict procedures. He reassured her that she had done the right thing by alerting them and that her observations were important. She nodded, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. She had never imagined that a simple morning walk could lead to this level of involvement in something so significant. The woman realized that her attentiveness, her willingness to notice the small details, had made all the difference. Meanwhile, neighbors began to share stories and theories. One older man remembered a family that had lived nearby years ago, a family that had suddenly disappeared without explanation. Others mentioned local legends about hidden treasures and unsolved crimes. The woman listened quietly, absorbing the information but staying focused on the present investigation. She knew that speculation could be misleading, but the town's curiosity only made her feel more aware of the importance of the discovery. As the day wore on, the forensic team uncovered a small metal box partially buried in the dirt. The officers carefully removed it, cleaning off the soil and examining it closely. The woman held her breath, realizing that this box could hold something extraordinary, something that had been hidden for decades. The officers opened it slowly, revealing papers, photographs, and personal items that appeared old but well preserved. The discovery left the woman in awe. It was clear that this was not an ordinary find. The objects told a story, though she could not yet understand its full meaning. Word began to spread quickly and journalists arrived, hoping to capture the scene. Cameras were set up, microphones prepared, but the officers ensured that the area remained secure. The woman felt a mixture of discomfort and curiosity as reporters asked questions. She answered carefully, describing what she had seen and how she had discovered the grave hole. Her words were simple but truthful, reflecting the reality. The next morning she returned to the cemetery, unable to sleep thinking about the discoveries from the day before. The air was crisp and quiet, and the early light made the cemetery look peaceful. Yet she knew what lay beneath the soil was anything but ordinary. Her dog trotted beside her, sensing her unease but also trying to comfort her with his presence. As she approached the area, she noticed that the police had left markers and evidence tags near the hole. The forensic team was already there, resuming their careful work. She stood at a distance watching the team methodically examine the site. They were handling something larger now, something that had been unearthed from the hole. Her curiosity grew with every movement. The small metal box they had found the previous day had been carefully transported, but it was clear that their focus was now on the surrounding area. She wondered what else might be hidden, buried alongside the box, waiting to be discovered. The anticipation was almost unbearable. The officers noticed her watching and asked her to stay nearby but not interfere. She complied, her heart pounding as she observed every detail. The forensic team moved slowly, using brushes and small tools, making sure nothing was damaged. They uncovered fragments of old objects, pieces of paper, and small personal items. She realized that this was more than just a mystery. It was a story frozen in time, waiting to be understood. Each item seemed to tell a piece of a larger narrative, and she was witnessing the puzzle being slowly put together. As the day progressed, a historian and a journalist arrived. They had been following the story closely and were eager to examine the items. The historian carefully examined the documents and photographs from the box, while the journalist recorded every step of the investigation. The woman watched them work, fascinated by how they could piece together information from fragments and clues. She realized that this discovery was not just important for the town. It was significant in a broader sense, a glimpse into a hidden past. The historian explained some of the letters and photographs to the officers and the woman. They revealed a family that had lived in the town many decades ago, a family whose disappearance had puzzled the community for years. The letters spoke of disputes, financial troubles, and fears that were never made public. The photographs showed people she did not recognize, smiling in happier times, unaware that their story would eventually end in secrecy. The woman felt a chill as she looked at the images, realizing that real lives were behind these objects, lives that had been hidden and forgotten. The journalist began taking notes and recording interviews, asking careful questions about how the woman had discovered the hole and what she had observed. She answered truthfully, explaining the morning walk, the dog's behavior, and the small clues that had led her to notice the disturbed soil. The journalist seemed fascinated, but the woman did not seek attention. She only wanted the truth to be uncovered and the story to be told accurately. Meanwhile, the forensic team continued their meticulous work. They uncovered more personal items, a small locket, a torn piece of fabric, and even a pair of old shoes. Each discovery added depth to the story, painting a picture of lives interrupted, of secrets that someone had gone to great lengths to conceal. The woman could feel the weight of history pressing down on her, understanding that what she had stumbled upon was far greater than she had ever imagined. The town had started to take notice again. People gathered at a safe distance, whispering and speculating. Some remembered stories passed down from older generations, tales of the family that had vanished. Others were simply curious, drawn by the mystery and the excitement of discovery. The woman watched them, realizing how a single act, her decision to investigate the unusual hole, had connected the entire community in shared curiosity and concern. It was a powerful reminder of how small actions can have wide-reaching effects. As the day wore on, the historian discovered something intriguing within the documents: a map of the town with certain locations marked, including the cemetery. It suggested that the grave hole might have been deliberately chosen as a hiding place for the items. The realization was shocking, and the woman felt a shiver run down her spine. This was not just about a forgotten family. It was about someone's deliberate attempt to hide something important. The implications were enormous, and she felt both anxious and intrigued, eager to see what else would come to light. The officers carefully documented every new finding, photographing items, measuring distances, and recording notes. The woman stayed nearby, observing and learning. She began to understand the process of investigation, the care and patience required to uncover hidden truths. The experience was eye-opening, making her realize how much effort goes into understanding history and solving mysteries. It also made her feel a responsibility to ensure that the truth was respected and handled with care. By afternoon, the team had uncovered several more small boxes and containers, each holding items that added layers to the story. Letters described personal struggles and fears. Photographs captured moments of joy and sorrow, and small keepsakes hinted at connections and relationships long forgotten. The woman could sense the weight of emotion in these discoveries. They were not just objects. They were fragments of lives, pieces of stories that had been hidden for decades. She felt honored to witness the uncovering of these lives, even if it was from a distance. The historian explained that some of the items suggested that the family had been involved in a dispute with another family in town, a conflict that might have led to their disappearance. The details were still unclear, but the documents and photographs provided enough clues to start piecing together the story. The woman listened carefully, feeling the gravity of the revelations. This was no longer just a mysterious grave hole. It was a key to understanding a part of the town's past that had been buried and forgotten. The journalist, sensing the importance of the discovery, began documenting everything for a report. She took notes, photographs, and recorded interviews, careful to respect the investigation process. The woman answered questions when asked, providing her perspective as the person who had discovered the hole. She explained how she had noticed the disturbed soil, the discarded cloth, and the tire tracks, emphasizing that she had acted out of concern and curiosity, not seeking attention. As evening approached, the team continued their careful work, ensuring that every detail was recorded. The woman felt a sense of awe and exhaustion. The day had been long, filled with discoveries and revelations, yet it had only just begun to uncover the full story. She realized that what she had found would change the way the town viewed its past, shedding light on secrets that had been hidden for generations. It was a profound experience, one that left her both humbled and deeply engaged. Her dog, sensing the end of the day, nudged her gently, reminding her it was time to leave. She stepped back, watching the team as they prepared to secure the items for further analysis. The sunlight faded, casting long shadows over the cemetery, giving the area a quiet, solemn feeling. She felt a strange mixture of relief and anticipation, relief that the discovery was in capable hands and anticipation for what would be revealed next. She walked away slowly, her dog faithfully by her side, thinking about the importance of observation, curiosity, and courage, and knowing that the story hidden beneath the grave hole was only beginning to be told. The morning's events. She did not seek attention, but she could see that her discovery had captured the town's imagination. The contents of the box intrigued everyone. There were letters that spoke of events long forgotten, photographs showing people the woman did not recognize, and small personal items that hinted at a hidden life. The officers and forensic experts began to piece together what they could, careful not to jump to conclusions. The woman watched, fascinated by the way the experts worked, connecting pieces of the puzzle, trying to understand what had been hidden beneath the ground. Throughout the day, the following morning, she returned once again to the cemetery, feeling a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. The night had been restless, her mind replaying every detail from the past 2 days. She wondered what new discoveries might be made, and whether the items uncovered could finally reveal the truth about the family whose history had been hidden for so long. Her dog walked close, sensing her tension but also providing comfort. As she approached the area, she saw that the forensic team and the historian were already at work, the grave hole carefully cordoned off and under constant observation. She noticed a larger crowd than before had gathered at a safe distance. Residents of the town were talking quietly among themselves, some sharing stories they had heard from older relatives, others speculating about what the recent discoveries meant. There was a quiet tension in the air, a mix of excitement, fear, and anticipation. The woman felt a sense of responsibility as she watched, knowing that her discovery had brought the community together in ways no one had expected. She remained at the edge of the activity, observing and reflecting on how much had changed in such a short time. The officers continued to document every finding meticulously. They had begun to uncover even deeper layers beneath the original hole, revealing a series of small containers, each holding objects that hinted at a hidden narrative. Some containers had personal items like jewelry, letters, and photographs, while others contained documents detailing business transactions and disputes. It was clear to the woman that the story was far more complex than anyone had imagined, involving not only the family but also connections that reached across the town and its history. The historian, now fully absorbed in examining the materials, began piecing together a timeline. She observed how the family had once been respected in the town, but had fallen into difficult circumstances. Letters revealed personal struggles, while photographs captured moments of joy, sadness, and even conflict. There were notes that suggested the family had been involved in disputes with others in the town, disagreements that may have led to their disappearance, and the deliberate hiding of their belongings. The woman listened quietly, realizing that the discoveries were starting to paint a vivid picture of long-hidden truths. The journalist took notes and conducted interviews, careful not to interfere with the investigation. She asked the woman about her initial discovery, how she had noticed the unusual hole, and what had prompted her to call the authorities. The woman explained calmly, focusing on the small details: the disturbed soil, the cloth, the tire tracks, and her dog's unusual behavior. The journalist seemed fascinated, and the woman understood that her careful observations had become crucial in understanding the full story. It was not about attention, but about uncovering facts. As the forensic team dug deeper, they discovered even more objects. There were old keys, sealed envelopes, and small trinkets, each carefully preserved despite decades underground. The woman realized that someone had gone to great lengths to hide these items, and the thought was chilling. This was more than a simple case of forgotten belongings. It was evidence of deliberate concealment. The team worked slowly, carefully brushing away soil, examining each object, and documenting it with precision. She admired their patience and dedication, understanding the importance of their work. The historian shared her findings with the officers and the woman, explaining that the documents indicated the family had faced threats and perhaps felt the need to protect their possessions. There were references to disputes with other local families, disagreements over property, and even hints at criminal activity that had been covered up. The woman felt a mix of shock and fascination, realizing that the items in the grave hole were keys to understanding events that had been hidden for decades. It was as if history was slowly revealing itself, layer by layer. The town's mood continued to evolve. Residents who had gathered earlier were now absorbed in the unfolding story. Some whispered in disbelief, recalling old rumors and piecing together connections to what was being discovered. Others were quietly reflective, realizing that the town's history held secrets far deeper than anyone had imagined. The woman felt a sense of awe, understanding that her morning walk and the small decision to investigate had become a turning point in uncovering the truth. She remained humble, knowing her role was simply to observe and report. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, the team uncovered a small, locked chest, hidden beneath a layer of soil and older containers. The officers and historian carefully opened it, revealing letters, photographs, and other documents that provided crucial context. The woman leaned forward slightly, her heart pounding with anticipation. The contents were astonishing. Evidence of disputes, financial records, and personal letters that seemed to confirm long-held suspicions about the family's disappearance. It was clear that the grave hole had been deliberately chosen as a hiding place, a secret carefully preserved for decades. The woman felt a strange mix of emotions. She was amazed by the discovery, relieved that the truth was coming to light and yet saddened by the hardships revealed in the letters and photographs. The family's story had been silenced for years, their struggles hidden beneath the ground. Now, thanks to her discovery, the town could finally begin to understand what had happened. She realized that history was not just about events. It was about people, their choices, and the consequences that followed. The items in the grave hole were a bridge between past and present, revealing a story that could no longer remain hidden. The journalist, sensing the significance of the moment, continued documenting every detail. She interviewed the woman and other observers, carefully recording reactions and impressions. The historian and officers worked together to create a timeline, connecting the letters, photographs, and personal items to known events in the town's past. The woman watched in awe, understanding that each object was a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that was finally beginning to take shape. As evening approached, the forensic team carefully packed the items for transport to a secure location for further analysis. The woman felt a sense of closure for the day, but also anticipation for what would be revealed next. The discoveries had uncovered long-hidden truths, and the town was now on the path to understanding its own history more deeply. She reflected on how a simple observation, a moment of curiosity during an ordinary walk, had led to such profound consequences. It was a reminder of the power of awareness and the importance of paying attention to small details. Her dog nudged her gently, signaling that it was time to leave. She stepped back, watching the team as they completed their work. The sunlight faded, casting long shadows across the cemetery and highlighting the quiet solemnity of the scene. She felt a sense of pride and responsibility, knowing that she had played a role in bringing these hidden stories to light. The grave hole, once a symbol of mystery and fear, had become a doorway to truth, and the town would never be the same. Walking away, she thought about the families whose stories had been hidden, the challenges they had faced, and the courage it took to protect their secrets. She felt a deep respect for those who had lived through such difficult times, and for the professionals who were now carefully uncovering their history. The discovery had connected the community in ways she had never imagined, reminding everyone that history is not just in books but also in the small, hidden places waiting to be revealed. The woman's mind raced with questions and reflections. How many other stories lay hidden in the town? What other secrets had been buried, waiting for someone to notice? She realized that her discovery was just one of many moments that could change the understanding of the past. She felt grateful for her own attentiveness, knowing that noticing the small clues had set everything into motion. The grave hole, once unnoticed and mysterious, had become the center of a story that would impact the town for years to come. Her dog stayed close as they walked away from the cemetery, both of them exhausted but quietly satisfied. The woman felt a sense of connection to the past, to the town, and to the lives that had been revealed. The day's events had shown her the power of observation, curiosity, and the courage to act. She knew that the story was not finished, that the next steps would bring even more revelations, but for now she allowed herself to reflect on the extraordinary events that had unfolded. What had started as a simple morning walk had transformed into a journey into the heart of a hidden history, and the impact of her discovery would be felt by everyone who had been touched by it. Reflected on the importance of paying attention. If she had not noticed the hole, if she had ignored the subtle clues, the disturbed soil, the discarded cloth, the faint tire tracks, none of this would have come to light. She realized that her actions had triggered a process that could bring truth to a story that had been buried and forgotten. It was a sobering thought, and yet it filled her with a sense of purpose. She had played a part in uncovering history, in revealing something that others had tried to hide. The woman noticed that the town's mood shifted as more details became clear. Fear and uncertainty gave way to fascination and anticipation. People began to discuss the implications of the discovery, wondering how it connected to their community and its past. The officers, experts, and journalists worked diligently, ensuring that every detail was recorded and every piece of evidence treated with care. The woman stayed close, observing, learning, and reflecting on how one small action, simply noticing something unusual, could have such a far-reaching impact. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the cemetery, the woman felt a sense of exhaustion mixed with wonder. The morning had started like any other, with a quiet walk and the companionship of her dog. By now it had become an event that would be remembered in the town for years, She thought about the people whose stories were hidden in the box, the secrets that had been kept for decades, and the way a single moment of observation could change everything. Night approached, and the officers continued their work under portable lights. The forensic team carefully prepared to transport the discovered items to a secure location for further analysis. The woman realized that her role in this part of the story was nearing its end. She had discovered, reported, and observed. The next steps would be handled by the experts. Yet she could not help but feel a connection to what had been uncovered, a sense that she was part of something much larger than herself. Her dog nudged her gently, reminding her that it was time to leave. She stepped back, watching the lights and the activity in the cemetery one last time before turning toward home. Her heart was full of thoughts and questions. What had been buried here? Whose story was this? How would it change the town? She did not have answers yet, but she knew that the morning's discovery had set in motion a series of events that no one could have predicted. She walked away slowly, the cool evening air on her face, her dog faithfully by her side, feeling both anxious and proud, knowing that what she had found would leave everyone stunned. Had drawn her to the edge of the cemetery that morning, now felt like a responsibility. She understood that even the smallest observations could lead to uncovering secrets, and she felt both anxious and determined to see what would come next. Hours passed slowly, with the woman staying nearby, watching as more officers and forensic experts arrived. Each new person brought tools and equipment, and they began documenting everything around the hole. The town continued to gather, keeping a respectful distance but whispering among themselves. Everyone was eager to know what was buried, and yet no one wanted to interfere with the investigation. The woman felt a strange sense of solidarity with her neighbors, all of them connected by the mystery that had emerged from the ground. She found herself thinking about the person who might have dug the hole. Who were they? What were they trying to hide? The questions seemed endless, and the uncertainty was almost unbearable. Yet, in the midst of fear and confusion, there was also a strange thrill. She was witnessing something extraordinary, something that would soon change the town's story forever. Her heart pounded as she realized that this quiet morning walk had led her into a situation she never could have imagined. By late morning, the forensic team had begun carefully examining the site, preparing to uncover what lay beneath the surface. She stayed close enough to observe, but far enough to remain safe. Her dog rested quietly at her feet, sensing her tension but also trying to comfort her with his presence. She felt a bond with him stronger than ever, grateful for his companionship in this unsettling situation. Throughout it all, she remained thoughtful, reflecting on how a single discovery could ripple outward, affecting so many lives. The freshly dug hole was no longer just an oddity. It had become a focal point for the town, a symbol of hidden truths and the power of curiosity. She realized that her decision to notice, to act, and to involve the authorities had set a chain of events in motion. What might have remained a secret forever was now on the path to being revealed. As the police continued their careful work, the woman felt a strange mixture of fear and anticipation. She knew that what would come next could be shocking, even life-changing. But she also understood that she had done the right thing. Standing there surrounded by the morning light, the whispers of the town, and the quiet presence of her loyal dog, she waited, ready to see what lay hidden beneath the freshly turned soil, unaware that the discovery she had stumbled upon would soon leave everyone stunned.